So it's time for a change of pace now, where we switch focus from the wonderful group of speakers who have shared their knowledge to the knowledgeable and brave folks in the audience down here. Up until now, we've been treated to an amazing selection of topics from our merry band of presenters, but I know that out there in the audience, there are stories just waiting to be told. Sometimes you might know a lot as a documentarian, but can't quite work out what knowledge to share with folks. It's a little bit like having the dreaded blank page paralysis, but with your mouth. So to help you get your thoughts to flow out of your mouth in the form of words that we can hear, the Write the Docs Australia team is testing out something that's never been done before at our conferences anywhere in the world. Borrowing from the immensely popular format of Lightning Talks, we bring you Write the Docs Australia's Tales from the Trenches. Whether it's a documentation horror story, a tech writing hack, or a valuable lesson learned, your story matters. It's time for some of you folks to take 5 minutes, share a tale, and become part of Write the Docs history. So, who's first? Let's find out. Folks, welcome Felicity Ward, who'll be running the session. Thank you so much.
Hi folks, I'm Felicity. Thank you, Jared. It's time for you to give that voice of yours a rest, a very well-deserved rest. So, as Jared said, we're keeping to the Lightning Talks format, and that means a strict 5-minute time frame, just to ensure everything runs smoothly. So speakers, you'll get a 1-minute warning, and then you'll hear a bell at the 5-minute mark, and so you need to stop talking at 5 minutes. So we're going to start with the topic AI in docs, and Chris, you're up first, and he's going to talk about using AI to audit a big docs collection. Please welcome Chris.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, I am Chris. I'm a documentarian adjacent, so I'm actually a product manager at a dev tool company. But docs has been really important to my work. I used to work in product onboarding for a while, and docs are just the thing you need for a very complicated product. But the situation we had was I was working in our pipelines product. It was very mature. It had been around for a long time. It has all of the features, but it was really hard to engage with because the technical writing team kind of fluctuated a lot at our history. Sometimes we had them, sometimes we didn't. So I was interested in how we made it better. So I'm also the kind of person that loves to play around with technology and try all the new things. And I've definitely played a lot with AI. And I said, how can AI fit into this process? So of course, it's not going to replace the work that a technical writer does. But I was thinking about how can I use it to make it easier for Giles. He's just left. He's our technical writer at Bill Kite. What can we do to make it easier for him to actually improve the docs so that people can come in and just understand it and engage it easier? And so I started thinking about why don't we try understanding where the problems are? What to fix in the docs. If we have all of these pages about all of these features, but which of them should be improved first? Where are the biggest problems? So I started trying to get it working on one page. So I took one page and I said, what kind of issues are wrong with it? And you get it and you get a pretty generic list. But it gave me something to start with. So then I started prompting for more specific types. It was a weak introduction. It wasn't linking enough to other pages. It had multiple topics on a single thing or what have you. And then I got some actual specialist help, someone who knew that what they were doing. And then with some actual specific types of issues, the quality got a lot better. But the thing about AI is that once you train it or you teach it, you get the actual thing giving you the quality output that you need, you get that exact same thing all of the time. So once I had this example working with a single page, I can now then take it to all of the docs across all of the product, basically. And that gave me basically a big database of issues with the docs. Things from, this page had like 5 problems, this page only had 1 problem. That was not quite overwhelming, but I didn't quite trust it. well, yeah, no, I don't know. I was like willing to run with anything. So other people, maybe not so. But then I thought, what happens if it went even further? So I started experimenting with, what if I took these 6 issues, you let someone, just give some commentary on it, and then go even further and say, great, what if you could fix them? And of course, the first result was not terribly great. But all you have to do is start just tweaking and adding in more information, remembering that these things are just like word generator prompts. And so even when I'm trying to like audit and find the issues in a piece of content, I start with just like, okay, what's the title? What's the description of the issue? But then if I add another column for what's the like extract or a quote or something, it's now providing me the actual like place, an example that the error is. So on the whole, it actually worked really well. Where am I? This one. So I got it working. We started experimenting with what were the biggest sources of problems, giving that as an example to use. And in the end, I thought that it gave me enough reason to actually give me something quite usable. And if I had the time that I spent on just mucking around with it, plus someone who actually knew what they were doing, I was pretty confident that we'd be able to take it further. So I definitely know that there's a lot of pros and cons to AI, and there's a lot of reasons that it's not going to do what you want. But my experience actually using it for coding and things lately is that my coding example is that I muck around with stuff on the weekends and at night time for fun. And I started using this tool called Cursor. I used up all my AI credits in like 1 or 2 days. And the second I ran out, I literally bought it and paid for it. And I hardly pay for much software. But the thing is that in like 1 or 2 hours in an evening, I can get done what I'd normally get done in like 5 hours. And it's like, if you get that kind of tool for writing content and docs, right, that knows about your style guide and what good and bad docs are, surely like magic is possible there as well. So, very cool.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time talking for Write for Docs. So when I started my journey as a technical writer, I wanted to become a good technical writer. So I would read all sorts of articles like, what technical skill should I acquire? What soft skill should I have? So over the years, I realized there's one skill that I never found in the list, which is staying calm. And believe me, it's not a soft skill. It's a superpower. And yes, and calmness is contagious. So I would like to share a story where I was like the first technical writer in the organization. People were not used to working with a technical writer. And I had to document a new software feature with a super nervous developer. So now getting information out of him was a huge challenge. And he was a brilliant, lovely fellow. And he was like, oh, you are a writer. And I think I probably made him nervous because I thought, okay, my grammar is not good. What if I make, what if I criticize his writing? So that's when I came up with the idea of a template. They never had this, concept of using templates for document creation. So I just came up with a simple structure. I went to him and I said, don't worry about comma, full stop language. I just need raw information. We'll fix that up later. So that sort of helped him calm down. And we built like a good rapport. And yes, we ended up creating a really user-friendly document. And now this was my experience with SME. And another thing that I would like to share is, if you, as a writer, if you are calm, you end up creating documents that wouldn't frustrate users, like calmness would lead to better documents. And it's not just about, document creation and reviews. It's about looking at the big picture. In the long run, it's about building good reputation as a technical writer in the organization. Because if you are perceived as a calm, composed individual, people, they trust you, they love to collaborate with you. And I have received compliments like, Swati, you are calm in the storm. When I work with you, I just feel so relaxed. So which is like a big compliment for me as a technical writer. And thank you. I think you're finished within my time limit.
Yes, I'm afraid I'm going to tell you that, yes, I have deleted a production authentication database. So this was back in 2002. I was a lowly support engineer. So as you can imagine, some of the details are a little fuzzy. Others are rather stark. We were using LDAP to authenticate teachers against a database. So if they wanted to access the internet, we asked them for their username and their password and authenticated that against this LDAP database. I was dealing with support tickets, and what you had to do then was the way that we were dealing with it was we would dump the LDAP database to a file. I don't remember the command, but you gave it the command and then the file name, and since it would just print it out, you used greater than to redirect it to a file. What if, say, you typoed and you put in less than rather than greater than? At which point, the shell, bash, helpfully opens the file that you've put there and opens it for truncating and makes it 0 length on a running authentication server. Being a lowly support engineer, I did not own up to my mistake. And instead I went and hid in the bathroom. After I got back from the bathroom, however, one of our sysadmins went, "Hey, why is this file 0 length? What is going on here? Does anyone know what's happened?" A tumbleweed blew through the office. At which point he's like, "Okay, I am going to copy that directory to the side, and we're going to investigate what happened here later." While this is going on, though, one of the other developers was on the phone to the owner of the company, just talking about stuff, and then went, "Hold on." Something has happened. However, the sysadmin found a backup, weirdly, in my home directory from 2 days prior, and used that to restore a backup. So we were only down for about 15, 20 minutes. And the sysadmin then went, "Well, so if any teacher rings up and says, my password doesn't work and I changed it just recently, we'll tell them that they're lying." No one noticed, actually. We got 0 calls about this, so bullet dodged. But I think the moral of the story is, if someone says, "Hey, what happened with this?" you should put your hand up and you say, "Hi, it was me. I'm the problem." That's all I got.
I wrote a lot of notes. Let's see if I can get by without them. So I was at Telstra. I was a part-timer. I had twins at home. I was working 2 days a week. And I had a bunch of roles at Telstra, 2015 till 2021, I think. At some point, I realised via Yammer that there were other people who cared about knowledge across Telstra. There was no technical writer job title in the HR database. So I just made up stuff about my job title. And so discovering others, it was hard, but Yammer. And so we got chatting, we made ourselves a little Yammer group. We got a bit fired up, we're all experiencing the same stuff at various places of the Telstra tree. We got excited. There was one person who was super excited. It wasn't me, but we were both excited. And she just had a bomb under her and managed to get all of us excited enough, and then she ran off and somehow got us a half-hour phone call with Nikos. And Nikos was a senior dude. He'd rolled in from the US. He was fixing all the things. He was C something, can't remember his role. And so we didn't really have an agenda for the call. And my fired up colleague was like, I'm going to talk about these things. We're going to convince him and he's going to give us the money to do the things. Yeah, stop laughing. So I take the phone call on my earpods in the primary schoolyard at 3 p.m. because, you know, that's the best way to really focus. And so I'm on the call. There's a bunch of other randos from across the org who were all super passionate. My very passionate colleague went, at him in English, but like ranting about how the things, and super detailed, because that's the kind of people who got involved. Someone else said a thing, can't remember. I realised in the call, hang on, this isn't fit for purpose. Nikos doesn't care about this level of detail. Hang on, I think we're trying to change his mind, not tell him technical facts. Oh, so I had a crack. I got to talk for about 10 minutes at this poor man who had other things to do. In the call, he said, Paul, can't remember who Paul was, can you take this on? You're doing a project that is secretly, utterly irrelevant to knowledge management, but can you take that on and let me know how you get on? So of course it sank without a trace. That was the last. People asked Paul how he got on. He was like, yeah, scope creep. So that was the end of that. And Telstra remains, as far as I know, without a knowledge management strategy, without a coherent view of any of this, and they have no knowledge retention capacity. So when they do stuff like let 9,000 people go over 4 years, happened while I was there, people walked out with their knowledge. And the knowledge retention strategy was have a beer on their last day and listen to their war stories and then watch them walk away. So my learnings. The reason it didn't work, disparate KM group. Diversity is great, but too much diversity in a chaotic environment, we didn't put controls in place. Different goals. The passionate and outgoing person didn't have the communication skills or the capacity to handle this interaction, and we did not have a plan. I look back at that and I think, for heaven's sake. My lessons, they're twofold. One, don't get washed into anything like that ever again just because it sounds fun, because my personal reputation was associated with this minor debacle which nobody knew about. I don't love it. Number two, my very good friend and colleague Kylie Weaver, who's not here but she does a lot of these sorts of things, has a documentation process which is called PADS, Purpose, Audience, Delivery and Scope. Purpose and audience we all know about. I love delivery, like is it an email, is it a phone conversation, is it a 500-page PDF? Scope, it's great. So you have to work out, I'm trying to do 4, there we go. 4 things about everything. Every time you do an email, every time you hold up a 1-minute thing, what's the purpose, what's the audience, what's the scope, what's the delivery? What I've learned is don't get involved in something that seems exciting but is highly risky, and do PADS. And especially do it with an executive audience. And I am never going to get into that embarrassing situation again where I saw an opportunity and it slid away, and I would never get that half hour with Nikos again.
All right, let's see if I can get played off stage again. So 2 things you need to know about me. 1, I'm impatient, and 2, I am accident prone. Great combination. One day, I went to Bunnings and bought myself a pressure washer. I wanted a pressure washer. We had an electric one, but I wanted a gas-powered one. I wanted one with some oomph behind it to do some cool stuff around the house, like, paint with water on my driveway. Real legitimate reasons for it. Got my shiny new pressure washer, spent a few $100 on it, brought it home, unboxed it, set it up on my back deck, and looked at it and went, okay, now what do I do? Being a documentarian, I RTFM. Sat down with my manual, had a good read, and immediately encountered some problems. 1, flimsy as F. You touch it and it started to tear. Great, okay, so I'll be a little careful. I won't get it near any of the water I'm going to be using with my pressure washer. So let me read it inside. Okay, fine. 2, it's a translation. It's not a great translation. And again, being impatient, I don't particularly want to spend a lot of mental effort mentally translating this into better English for myself. Okay, but I can do that. I'm sitting inside, I've got a bevy, I'm invested in getting this pressure washer to work. Okay. Third problem, big warning, tiny little bit of text. Big warning, tiny little bit of text. Big warning, tiny little bit of text. Okay, so this pressure washer is super dangerous. There are pages and pages of this. Warning, little bit of text. Warning, little bit of text. And me, being impatient and wanting to get to play with my shiny new toy, skip ahead. I skip ahead to the how do you turn it on? And okay, up the top of it, warnings. Don't spray yourself with a pressure washer. It will cause pressure injuries. It will inject water under your skin. Very good to know. I wasn't aware of that. If that happens to you, go straight to hospital. But there's a nice little diagram. There is a nice little set of steps. Do this, do this, do this. So do this, plug it in, turn on your water, turn it on, turn this on, turn this on. So I go outside with my manual, which again, very water soluble, and start going through the steps. And as I'm going through the steps, everything is going smoothly. It turns on, it's making a nice humming sound. I could hear it kicking up and coming up to speed. It sounds like a lawnmower, which is what I expect to hear with it. And it's running, it's running, it's running. And I get to a point at which it says, essentially, so to turn on the water flow to the actual outlet so that you can actually start spraying things. Great, this is what I'm getting towards. And I look at it and I look at, okay, my setup doesn't quite match the instructions I've got here. There's a valve here that's meant to be on. And so I figure, okay, I'll just turn the valve on. So I turn the valve on. And for a few seconds, this is perfectly fine. And then I discover two things. One, this is a water-cooled engine. I've never used a water-cooled engine before. And two, what I had just done is dump a whole bunch of very cold water into a very, very hot engine. And the engine goes boom. It shot out a piston that embedded itself several inches in my deck and missed my leg by also inches. And it caught fire. So I'm standing there on my wooden deck with a smoking bit of metal, like right there, and a burning metal and plastic object in front of me. What do you do in those circumstances? You put out the fire, you go inside, sit down and have a beer, as it turns out. And then you take it back to Bunnings and lie about what happened. But lessons from this. The order of instructions are very important. Also, alarm fatigue is a very real thing. I got so caught up, essentially it told me that it was dangerous, but it didn't effectively communicate to me exactly how it was dangerous. And it didn't give me a good sequence of events to prevent the danger that, I caused myself in the end. And also, task knowledge and equipment knowledge is very important, and that I should probably not be allowed to operate heavy machinery.
Thank you. Yep, new format. Let's experiment with this. So I have attempted to set up wikis. I've set up wikis and working towards knowledge bases, and I'm actually trying to get to the bottom of what is good, and it's sort of something that we're trying to achieve in the Good Docs Project. We actually haven't got the formula yet, and so I'm actually wanting to find out from a whole bunch of really talented people here how to solve this. And so I'm going to start saying, what is a wiki? What is a knowledge base? What's the difference between them? And how do they fail? And how do we protect against them failing? So, open the floor. Hands. Anyone, or shout out. Thank you.
Failure point with knowledge management and knowledge bases is having the people who write the docs not care or be shit at it.
Failure point. So failure point is if you're shit at writing, don't write. Or if you don't care, don't write. Thank you. Yes.
Another failure point is lack of purpose. If you're going to create a knowledge base or a wiki, it needs to be built around specific purpose for that specific audience.
Right, so a lack of purpose is a failure point. So, and the flip of that is, if you're going to create one, let's have a purpose. Very good, thank you. Yes? Okay, I love it, thank you. So FAQs, you've got to make sure that they have a purpose and keep them tight. Don't make them a general, everything about everything for the whole product. Love it, thank you, yes. Ooh, is FAQs a dying thing? Are they going out of style? Yet, really good question, and it's something that documentarians, I've actually been looking into this recently, and there is debates on both sides, and I think that you're probably right in that they're sort of losing favour, but I don't think they're out yet. Beautiful. So okay, so yeah, we could probably just go FAQs the entire way. FAQs are very popular, and in particular for marketing, and they do well in search optimization at the cost of the rest of everything else. Sorry. Put the questions in, but not in an FAQ, just an AQ. Yes.
I've got a solution to some of the problems with crowdsourcing within an organisation is magically get a good culture, and we all know what that is. Magically get one which empowers, funds, skills, rewards, makes people feel great. That's all the rest.
I'll take one.
Okay, so create a good culture within the organisation. Is this to create ownership of the? Reward good behaviours in an organisation systemically. Yeah, good knowledge creation, retention, something behaviours. Thank you. Skills. Yes, yes. Okay. Sorry, Michael. I think I saw your hand.
I was going to talk about how knowledge bases become stale.
Oh yes, I love it. Knowledge bases, and I'm going to extend that to wikis too, become stale. And as a consequence, we need to be able to work out how to get rid of, deprecate bad content. Yes, Solana.
I was just going to say, it's a value point, be really purposeful about what content you have in your knowledge base, how it's organised, and what your audiences are. What was the acronym of PADS? That. Be really purposeful about what you're putting in there and how you organise it.
Be purposeful about the content that you're creating. Yes, last one, thank you.
Have people be able to find stuff on the site itself without them having to go to Google and go help.
Beautiful. Add a search into your website so you can actually get to the end of it. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I had huge amounts of fun, and I really appreciated all your content. And at some point, we really should capture all this into the Good Docs project if you ever want to get involved. Okay. And that's it. Thank you, Felicity.